Room 616. On the outskirts of a small town stands an old hotel named Evermore. It looks imposing yet dilapidated, with cracked paint and a flickering sign where only half the letters light up. Legend has it that several guests mysteriously vanished in this hotel, and one particular room, room 616, was permanently sealed. Locals claim that even the staff refused to discuss its dark past. A young couple, Laura and Tom, stop at Evermore on their way to a lakeside vacation. From the outside, the hotel looks eerie, but the inside turns out to be surprisingly cozy, albeit somewhat outdated. At the reception desk, a nervous clerk reluctantly hands them the keys to room 614. "Why 614?" Tom jokes. "Is 616 already taken?" The clerk freezes for a moment before leaning in and whispering, "You don't go in there." His words strike Laura as odd, but she brushes it off. On their first night, Laura notices that their room feels colder than the rest of the hotel. The pipes groan softly and faint footsteps seem to echo across the floor above them, even though no one is staying upstairs. Tom laughs it off, blaming the old plumbing and drafts. While wandering the hallway the next day, Laura spots the door to room 616. It's locked, but the handle gleams as though it's been polished recently. A cold draft seeps out from underneath. For a moment, she thinks she hears muffled crying coming from inside. That night, Laura wakes up to find their room door slightly ajar. Wet footprints trail across the floor, stopping abruptly at the wall. Tom swears he didn't get up. The next day, Laura talks to a housekeeper, an older woman with a weary face. At the mention of room 616, the woman freezes and whispers, "Don't open it." They're waiting for someone to let them in again. That evening, Tom returns from the bar with a mischievous grin. "I opened it," he admits, chuckling. "There's nothing in there, just dust and a weird smell." But Laura senses something is off. Tom acts strange all night, sitting in silence, staring at the door, and occasionally smiling at something unseen. Laura is jolted awake in the middle of the night by a strange sound. Whispering. It's faint, but unmistakably coming from room 616. It sounds like multiple voices murmuring together. She steps into the hallway and sees the door slightly ajar. Something shifts in the darkness beyond. Summoning her courage, Laura peeks inside. On the floor lies an old photograph of a group of people in the hotel lobby. They're all smiling, but their eyes appear pitch black. In the far corner of the photo, Laura recognizes a couple who looks eerily like her and Tom. Suddenly, she feels something cold brush against her shoulder. She spins around, but no one is there. Laura hurries back to their room to wake Tom, only to find him sitting in the dark. His eyes seem vacant, his face twisted into a strange smile. "They invited me," he whispers. "I have to go back." She tries to stop him, but Tom acts as if he can't hear her. He walks out of the room and heads straight to room 616. Panicking, Laura calls the front desk, but the phone line is dead. Following Tom, she watches as he opens the door and steps inside. Before the door slams shut, Laura glimpses shadows in the room, figures standing in the darkness with black, lifeless eyes. Laura spends the rest of the night barricaded in her room, terrified. By morning, Tom is gone. When she asks the receptionist for help, he coldly replies, "There's no record of anyone named Tom staying here." Desperate, Laura runs outside to seek help. The police arrive and search room 616. It's empty, covered in dust, and the furniture looks untouched for decades. Laura is sent home, but weeks later she discovers an old newspaper article about Evermore's missing guest. Among the photos of the vanished, she recognizes several faces from the photograph she found. The last image chills her to the bone. It's Tom, smiling next to her in the Evermore lobby. But she never took that photo. A year later, a new couple checks into Evermore. The receptionist hands them the key to room 614, warning them, "Don't go near room 616. That night, they hear faint whispers coming from behind the door. The top floor. On the bustling outskirts of a large city stands the Sunset Heights Hotel. Modern and luxurious with stunning views of the skyline, it's a favorite among tourists. However, dark rumors surround the building's top floor, the 13th. Guests claim to have heard strange noises from above, and the staff never talks about it. Even the elevators, which serve all other levels, skip the 13th floor entirely. Hannah, a young journalist eager to advance her career, books a stay at Sunset Heights to write a feature on the mysterious rumors surrounding the hotel. She hopes that uncovering the secrets of the 13th floor will make her story irresistible to readers. At the reception desk, she casually asks about the floor, but the clerk gives her a nervous smile and replies, "There is no 13th floor in this hotel, it's just a myth." Hannah notices the clerk avoids eye contact, only fueling her curiosity. Hannah settles into her cozy room on the 12th floor. Everything is perfect: clean sheets, a panoramic view, and peaceful silence. However, in the middle of the night, she's awakened by a faint thumping sound coming from above, even though the staff insisted there's nothing above her floor. Intrigued, she grabs a flashlight and heads for the stairs. Between the 12th floor and the roof, she finds a plain metal door with no number. Tugging at the handle, she discovers it's locked. Back in her room, Hannah falls asleep with the uneasy feeling that someone is watching her. The next day, Hannah strikes up a conversation with a housekeeper, an older woman with a wary expression. At the mention of the 13th floor, the woman freezes, then leans in and whispers, "Better stay away from there. Anything that goes to the 13th floor never comes back." These words only heighten Hannah's determination to uncover the truth. That night, armed with a lock-picking kit she carries for emergencies, she decides to break into the mysterious door. Late that evening, Hannah makes her way to the door between the 12th floor and the roof. After a few minutes of fiddling with the lock, it clicks open. The walls are marked with dark, shadowy stains resembling the outlines of people. The silhouettes stretch upward, as if clawing toward the ceiling. When Hannah turns to leave, the door slams shut behind her. Panicked, Hannah tries to open the door, but the handle feels cold and sticky, almost like it's part of the shadows around her. The room starts to come alive. The TV flickers on, displaying grainy footage of people entering the same room. The videos end abruptly with screams, or the figures dissolving into darkness. From the corners of the room, shadows begin to materialize into faintly human-like shapes. Their faces are blurry, like smudged photographs, but their glowing white eyes pierce through the darkness. "You've come to free us," a voice echoes. It doesn't belong to any of the shadowy figures. Hannah realizes she must escape, but the shadows close in, filling the room with an oppressive cold. She pounds on the door, but the sticky substance covering the handle spreads, snaking up her arm. Desperately, she grabs the rotary phone to call for help. Instead of a dial tone, she hears her own voice repeating, "You've come to free us." The door suddenly creaks open and she bolts into the hallway, hearing whispers and eerie laughter behind her. Back in her room, Hannah hastily packs her belongings, determined to leave. At the front desk, the clerk greets her with an unsettling calmness. "We didn't call you back," he says cryptically. "Do you like your new room?" Confused, Hannah rushes to a taxi and leaves the hotel. On the drive home, she checks the photos on her phone and finds images of room 1408. The photos are sharp and detailed, though she never took them. The final photo chills her to the bone. It's her reflection in the dark screen of the room's TV, her face twisted in terror as she screams. Weeks later, news of a missing journalist spreads through the city. Security footage from Sunset Heights shows her entering the elevator, but she never comes out. When questioned, the hotel staff give the same cryptic reply: "We don't have a 13th floor." The Guest Who Never Leaves. The Silver Veil. Hotel stood in isolation, surrounded by forests and hills. Once renowned for its luxury, the building had since faded into obscurity, attracting those seeking solitude or budget accommodations. Regular guests, however, whispered of a strange detail. Anyone who stayed too long risked facing something irreversible. On the third floor, there was room 305, a place said to hold a guest who never checked out. The staff denied the room's existence, but occasionally, names appeared on the registry next to 305. Max, a young architect traveling to a nearby conference, found himself caught in heavy rain and decided to spend the night at the Silver Veil. At the reception desk, an elderly woman greeted him with a tired but polite smile. "You'll be in room 304, she said, handing him a key. "What about 305? Is it taken?" Max joked as he noticed the consecutive numbering. The woman's expression darkened instantly. She looked at him with a mix of fear and irritation, prompting Max to hurriedly take the key and head upstairs. Room 304 was ordinary, though slightly worn from age. As Max settled in, he decided to take a hot shower to relax. However, he soon noticed something strange. Faint noises coming from the adjacent room. Footsteps, furniture scraping, and quiet muttering could be heard through the thin walls. Curiosity got the better of him, and Max ventured into the hallway. The door to room 305 was firmly shut, but a faint light seeped from beneath it. Leaning closer, he heard a soft, pleading voice. "Please, don't leave." Back in his room, Max struggled to sleep, plagued by unsettling dreams of endless hallways, locked doors, and shadowy hands reaching from the darkness. He woke in the middle of the night to see a shadow under his door, as though someone was standing just outside. He quickly jumped up and flung the door open, but the hallway was empty. Only the faint sound of a closing door echoed from room 305. The next day, Max asked a housekeeper about the room. She froze and replied curtly, "Room 305 isn't rented out. No one lives there." That evening, Max decided to investigate the mysterious room. Armed with a screwdriver, he returned to the third floor and picked the lock. Inside, he found a peculiar sight. The furniture was draped in thick layers of dust. The window was curtained off, and a yellowed guest book lay on the table. The most recent entry caught his attention. The guest's name was crossed out, but the check-in date was over 20 years ago. As he flipped through the pages, the door slammed shut behind him, and a whisper filled the air. "You've come back to me?" Max struggled to open the door, but it wouldn't budge. The temperature in the room dropped rapidly. In the corner, a dark figure began to take shape, its outline indistinct, but its glowing eyes piercing through the shadows. "You must stay," the voice said, "like all the others." Max's eyes darted to the walls, where he saw portraits of people who had once been in the room. Among the faces, he saw his own, though the photograph appeared old and faded. He squeezed his eyes shut and screamed. Suddenly, the door swung open and Max bolted into the hallway. His heart pounded as he raced back to room 304, determined to pack his things and leave. But as he grabbed his suitcase, he realized something unsettling. His belongings were vanishing one by one, as if being erased. At the front desk, a young clerk greeted him with mild surprise. "Checking out already?" the clerk asked. "Yes, immediately," Max exclaimed. "But sir," the clerk replied with a puzzled smile, "you're not in our system. We have no record of a guest by your name." Weeks later, Max's friends grew concerned when he stopped responding to calls. His apartment remained untouched, with all his belongings still in place. At the Silver Veil, life continued as usual. Yet the housekeepers occasionally noticed peculiarities. Lights flickering in room 305, open windows, and faint footsteps. In the guest book at the front desk, a new entry appeared. The name was smudged and illegible, but the check-in date matched the night Max stayed. Next to it, under checkout date, was a single word: never.